Hey everyone, it's Miss Gibbs. Today we are painting our sky backgrounds without using the color blue. And we're going to start using a technique called wet on dry. And that is when we use our paint and put it on the dry paper. So remember, we always do dirty water, clean water, then wipe the edge. And then we gently pull that paintbrush across the paper. We don't push it. Dirty water, clean water, wipe the edge. Then we get our paint color. And remember, our challenge is to not use the color blue and stretch our creativity. Dirty water, clean water, wipe the edge. And now this technique is called wet on wet. That's when we put some water down on the paper first after doing our dirty water, clean water. And then we get our color and add it to where we already wet the paper. And that's how we get some nice blended areas in our watercolor. And when I'm making my sky, I kind of go back and forth between using those two techniques. Right there, I just did the wet on dry, and you can see how the color is a little bit more vibrant. But going back and forth in between using the wet on dry and wet on wet really gives it a nice variation of color in that sky. That means it helps it look a little bit different in areas, and it cuts out some of those big streaks of harsh lines that we can sometimes get when we're painting. As you're painting, remember to change up those colors to give it some interest. Don't leave any white spots. Now we're going to add some metallic watercolor to our painting and just lightly go over some areas. Remember, we don't want to put too much water in one area because then we're going to end up painting a hole in our paper, or could end up painting a hole in our paper, depending on what type of paper we're using. So I'm not repainting the entire painting with this. This is just to add a little bit of shimmer and sparkle. And you can choose which type of shimmer you want to add, or you can just stick with one or use all of them. And there we go. We have completed our sky background without using blue. Now we're going to add our flying person using our mirrors to draw ourselves. And I am showing you this using a black crayon, but I would suggest using a light color for the outline. I start by making an oval for my head, and I'm leaving enough room on the top so that I can add my arms going up in the air. So maybe about 3 or 4, if you have small hands, finger lengths. Then I draw my neck with 2 lines on each side. And next I'm going to add a little area for the shoulders, and that's where my arm would come up from. So now I'm drawing my arms going up over my head. Don't worry about using the mirror so much for this, because we are going to be using that to get some of the details of our hair and our face. So now I'm adding my fingers with my thumb is is closest to my head. That's how it would be if my hands are up in the air. And you can double check that by doing that right now. I add 2 lines coming down from the arms on either side. And I'm drawing a line across where our shirt would end, just to give our younger students an idea of where to start drawing the legs. So I start my legs by drawing the outer legs, and then coming back in and drawing the inner legs. And I kind of end up with a bit of a triangle right there in the middle. And then I just draw some curved lines there to add feet. That's the basis of our body. Now, I want you to look in the mirror at your hair. What color is it? Pick out that crayon, and you're going to draw your hair right there on your self-portrait. My hair is brown, so I picked the brown crayon. And I'm drawing in the details of my hair. My hair, I decided I'm going to draw it going behind my back because it's long, but I could have drawn that coming in front of my body. That's just an artistic choice. After I have my hair drawn, I'm going to just go back and I'm going to use black to draw my eyes. And I'm doing that so that you can see the outline of it easily. And you might want to do it in black also, so that you have some extra definition and can see your eyes. When I look in the mirror, I see that my eyes are a little bit of a oval shape, sideways ovals. And I did my nose. And then for my mouth, I decided I'm going to be smiling. Then I'm going to use some red and I'm going to fill in my mouth. For the next part, you don't really need to be using your mirror. You can come up with whatever type of clothes that you want to wear. I am adding a purple shirt, and notice you can see my outline of my body in there with the black crayon, and that's okay. And it's okay if you can see yours too. Don't worry about it. So I put in a collar, I put in where my sleeves would end, and then I decided that I'm going to wear some blue jeans. Keep it simple. Oh, but I changed my mind. I turned it into a skirt. I was thinking about blue jeans, and I said, I'm going to put a skirt. And that's okay. Make some changes. Think about how you want your clothes to be. You could put a design on them. And once I finish my clothes, I'm going to put some shoes on. Decided they want them to match my shirt. They don't have to. That's just how I did it. And now I'm going to look at my skin tone crayons. I'm going to pick out a few that I think might match my skin. I'm going to hold them up. I'm going to see, which one do I think matches best? I think I'm going to go with this one. And that's where I'm going to color in the parts where you see my skin. So that would be my arms and my hands. Then my face and my neck. And then finally, my legs. And this is just my skin tone color. Yours is going to be different. Doesn't have to match exactly, but try to pick out the one that you think is closest to your skin color. We are all beautiful and unique. So while I'm coloring in my legs, I decided that they look kind of thick compared to the proportions or the size of the rest of my body. So I decided that I was going to make a little bit of an adjustment there. And that's what we do in art. We make some changes as we go along. So I'm finding my black crayon, and I decided that I'm going to draw another line for where I want my leg to be when it's on the other side of that skirt. Now I am drawing a bubble around my person. This is going to help me when I cut it out so that I don't cut out any important parts. I'm not going to be cutting off my fingers because I'm going to be going around that bubble for my first go around cutting out my person. We're actually going to cut out our person 2 times. Our first time is going to be to cut away all of that extra white paper. We're not going to worry about getting too close to our person. We're just going to get away the extra. So here's my scissor. Thumb goes through the top smaller hole, and I always cut with my thumb on the top. And I am turning that paper, not turning my scissors. And notice how I go in from the outer edge to cut into those smaller areas instead of trying to turn my paper and go in the opposite direction. That makes it a little bit easier. So now that I have that outer edge cut, now I can go in and cut out that extra white beyond that bubble line that we drew so that we didn't lose any parts. And you can get as close to the hands and fingers as you feel comfortable with, or you can leave a little bit of white there, that's okay. But let's practice our cutting skills and see how much of that extra white we can cut away. It's going to take some time. This is sped up a little bit so that you're not bored watching it, but really take your time being careful doing your cutting here. And once we have our person cut out all the way, it's time to glue it to the background. Now, am I going to glue my person with my arms up in the air in that direction if I'm flying? Maybe. But to show that I'm really flying in the sky, I think I'm going to turn my person going horizontally. When I put my glue on, I am just going around the edges here, making sure that I get the glue all the way up by the hands so that they're not falling off the paper. Going right around the edge, making sure that I get the feet. And I could do an extra stripe down the middle for a little bit more reinforcement. So here's where I was thinking about it, and I decided that I'm going to go horizontally. That means across with my person. And I'm patting it down. Then I'm going to hold and count to 10 to make sure that all of my parts are sticking. And then there we go. We have drawn our flying self-portrait. Remember to put that cap back on the glue.